What's on the menu for today?
Connor, we are ready to go for the playoffs. Welcome into the OUA recap. Sorry it's a bit late. I had a power outage all Sunday, so we were not able to A, watch football in this household, and B, film our OUA recap. So we've got it coming now. Connor, what a week. We have our playoff picture sorted. We've got clarity on who could possibly be the OUA MVP as well.
Yeah,
Lots to discuss.
it certainly was a week, and it didn't really I don't know about you, but to me it didn't really feel like one of those OUA weeks where anything overly outstanding happened. It was just a matter of getting it done for a lot of teams and getting into the postseason.
Getting it done is a good way to put it. We're going to start with a team that got it done on the road in some tough circumstances. The Western Mustangs won by 20 over the Ottawa GGs. This was the matchup that even we thought was going to be, oh my God, this is the deciding factor for first place. What is going to happen? First quarter, Evan Hillock gets hurt, and it's kind of looking, could this be a close game? And then Western has a missed snap on a punt, and instead of kicking it out the back of the end zone, Cam Creechin falls on it on the 2, and we're texting each other like, oh my God, what is going on here? And then all of a sudden, Keon Edwards said, hey guys, yeah, let's stop playing around here. And they cruised after that.
Yeah, it certainly did. And I mean, for Ottawa, putting up 2-0 in the first and the third quarter really doesn't do you any favors against a team like Western. And I know I didn't joke about it on the OUA preview last week, or the OUA preview last week, but I joked about it on our U Sports preview, and I said that Silas Fania out in X had a Hillockian performance. No. Jackson White in this game had a Hillockian performance. 10 completions, 15 attempts, 196 yards, and 2 touchdowns, while Keon Edwards and Edwin Noddy went to work in the backfield. Another day of over 30 carries, 37 carries total on the ground for the two of them. 238 yards on the ground, a touchdown for Keon Edwards. Come on, it's what they do.
This has got to be the most frustrating part of the Western Mustangs when teams go to play them, is they ran the ball 37 times, and it's nothing unassuming. Keon Edwards had a 22-yard carry. Edwin Noddy had a 14-yard carry. But they both eclipsed 100 yards, and it's just like a death by 1,000 cuts.
Well, and it's coming too. I feel like that's what makes it even worse. They're going to run the ball, and they still go for 230 and a touchdown.
And I want to talk about Jackson White, because you did mention like his Hillockian performance. Jackson White was an outstanding true freshman when he was with McMaster.
Yep.
And then the following season, they decided to go with Andreas Dueck. They won the Yates Cup. White says, okay, I'm going to transfer, goes to Western. Gets pulled halftime against Laurier last year. We all know how that goes. Hillock comes in, and it's Hillock's team. Jackson White is still a damn good quarterback.
He was ripping the ball around the field.
He got beat out by Andreas Dueck, who is one of the more efficient passers in the league, and won a Yates Cup. And then he got beat out by Evan Hillock, who, as a true freshman, went undefeated, untouched, Vanier Cup champion. He's still a good quarterback. And I think that it was perfectly shown on his, not his touchdown to Savon Magnet-Jones, but the touchdown to Seth Robertson in the red zone.
That was a part.
He went through, I think, 4 or 5 reads, stepped up in the pocket, moved over, moved up, and then just put one over the top of the linebacker. Just said, there you go, little gift, chef's kiss into the end zone. That, to me, I was like, yeah, there's Jackson White. There we go. Welcome back.
The thing for me, I want to add on to that touchdown throw, because I think that was definitely his most veteran throw of the day. But for me, watching that play unfold too, it was watching him move the Ottawa pieces around the field with his eyes to open up Robertson in the back of the end zone. Like, looked off the safety, went to his next read, got the guy to come down, which opened up Robertson over the middle for that seam, kind of up the goalpost into that back of the end zone. And what a throw. Finished it off with a great throw.
Absolutely. And with Western winning, they are now the 1 seed. They have locked down the bye, and they're going to most likely, they are like a game away in the playoffs because they just had to play the semifinals, a game away from hosting a Yates Cup at home and taking that first step to a home Vanier. Ottawa, meanwhile, Connor, they're going to have to fend off the Windsor Lancers. Ottawa, though, in this game struggled. 9 of 20 for Ben Miracle. JP Simon-Kinda, 3 yards a carry, 15 for 47. He had 2 touchdowns, but one was 2 yards, one was 4 yards. And the 2-yard touchdown we talked about already. They got gifted the ball on the 2-yard line.
And a back like that, all he has to do is take 2 steps forward and go over, right? He's so strong, so powerful that a gift like that is going to be a goal line touchdown.
Absolutely. And I mean, when we look at this Ottawa defense, right, like James Peters still had a high volume of tackles. I thought that Kevin Victone played well, but when you have so many weapons like Western does in Magne Jones, Nixon, Robertson, Griffin Campbell, and they're running the ball that well, it's so tough as one DB to make a huge difference. So for Ottawa, I think this is kind of honestly a reality check, right? Like we have one loss. It was a close game against Queens on a weird kind of stormy night where we had a lot of resets. They were riding high. Western says, pump the brakes there, young, and we're going to show you how the veteran winning team has done this.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a little bit of that. And I think for me with Ottawa in this one too, they showed flashes of being able to keep up and compete with the Western Mustangs. I just wanted to see that sustained for a full 4 quarters. Like I said off the top, like having quarters where you put up no points and Western still puts up like 7-10 points. You can't, it's going to be, for anybody, it's going to be hard to compete with that if they're scoring and you're not in a quarter.
All right, Connor. Let's move on to the Carleton Ravens against the Guelph Griffins. This was kind of a weird game. I mean, Guelph just hung in there. It was 18-3, and then all of a sudden it was 18-14, and then it was 32-20 or to 14, and then Guelph just slowly started to come back. Carleton, though, 2 games in a row, they've let Tanner DeYoung kind of open it up a bit. 15 of 24, 206, 2 touchdowns. Last week we saw him up over 30 attempts. It's resulted in 2 of their better offensive performances of the year.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, for Guelph in this one, in the first and fourth quarter, they actually beat the Carleton Ravens 13-3. It was just the 32 points that they put up in the second and third quarter that made it difficult to come back from.
Yeah, that's always tough to do. But I will say we had multiple quarterbacks play for Guelph in this one. Helfrich and Yanchuk both played 15 of 33, 9 of 12, respectively. I think with Guelph, the looming question is still, Connor, who is playing quarterback for this team? Obviously, they're now they had missed the playoffs after falling to 1-7. That is the entire question for this offseason.
Yeah, and I think
who throws the ball.
And I think that's kind of what they were trying to figure out in this one. I mean, Helfrich threw for over 150. Yanchuk comes in and throws for 135. So I think there was a little bit of seeing what you got in this game for next year. But I mean, all things aside and everything that we've said over the course of the season about Guelph, I really liked how Jake Helfrich has finished out the season for these Griffins. He shows some grit. He's shown some progression. He's shown that he's kind of getting older quickly in this Guelph Griffins offense and really figuring out what they want to do. But yeah, I mean, as a team, would love to see some consistency heading into 2023.
With Guelph, though, they've had 9 weeks to kind of figure this out. I feel like it's going to be a big pitch to some recruit that's going to have to come in and play as a true freshman. Kind of like get your Evan Hillock is what I want to say. Everything comes back to this man from Western. But no, with Guelph, they've had a good defense. They got lit up a bit here in the middle of the game by DeYoung. Kasim Ferdinand in particular, 8 for 88, 2 touchdowns. He had a hell of a day. They got to travel to the Laurier Golden Hawks. That's going to be a close, tight, hard-fought game. We're going to preview all these though for you later. So
yeah, we'll get there. But
Which game are we moving on to next?
I was going to say, speaking of the Laurier Golden Hawks, we might as well segue it and move there because inversely of how we thought this game was going to go, the Queens Gales come out with a 30-11 win, a huge 30-11 win for them, and a big bounce back performance from quarterback Alex Vreeken.
Oh my God, was it ever? After going 9 of 25 last week against McMaster, Vreeken comes out 15 of 26, 220, a rushing touchdown to add with that.
Yep.
But Connor, he was in control of this game while they weren't putting up the points. He was commanding the offense well, and then Laurier just started to have some penalty issues in the second half that really pushed the game out of hand.
Yeah, they certainly did, and we credit a lot of this win to Alex Vreeken for having this bounce back game, having a really good performance, and kind of controlling the Queens offense. But let's talk about the defense of the Queens Gales here, because a 2-point first quarter, opening quarter, you hold what has been a very good Laurier Golden Hawks offense to 2 points. Then you come out and zero them going into halftime in the second quarter. Sure, they put up 9 points.
But that was a big chunk play, right? The 40-yard touchdown to Ethan Jordan. So 9
points in the third quarter, and you're still up 13-9 at that point, and then you come out and win the fourth quarter 17-0. So credit to Alex Vreeken, but I think there's a significant amount of credit due to the Queens defense in this game, because without the way that they played, holding them scoreless in the second and the final quarter of the game, this is a lot closer. And I'm going to keep harping on the Queens defense here, because let's look at what they did to the Laurier backfield in this one, which has been an outstanding rushing attack this season. They held Tanner Nelms 37 yards on 7 carries. Then they hold Quentin Scott to 24 yards on 6 carries. These are two guys that have been going for over 70 yards in their last few games.
Now, here's what I think is the real crux of this Queens team. They hold the ball, and every time they score, that time of possession gets larger and larger and larger, and teams start to kind of go, oh crap, we need to score quick. We can't waste a lot of clock. We need to start getting back into this game. And they finished with 33 and a half minutes of time possession, 33-25 officially. So just a shade under. But Laurier only had to attempt 16 rushes this game, Connor. That's a Laurier team that ran the ball, I think, close to 50 times against Guelph last week, and they're going to come out with 16 carries.
I think Queens was taking that away a little bit. I think they forced them to
made you play left-handed.
Yeah. Look at us. Look at us.
This is what we do. But no, with Queens, my only concern is that eventually their offense is going to have to play left-handed.
Yeah.
Someone is going to shut down this run game. And if it is Alex Freakin for the future, how does he respond? That's what I want to see. Second-year player. This is his first series of games where he is the dude. How does he respond, especially in the playoffs? Because he's got the Toronto Varsity Blues coming up this week. Traditionally, over the last couple of years, with Marshall and Schneider, it has been Queen's ground game nonstop. I have a feeling that it's going to have to be something else eventually.
Yeah, I'm entirely with you. Especially, I know we're looking ahead a little bit now, but doesn't have that playoff experience. So I will be watching for that this weekend. But before we start to dive into playoff matchups too much, because I know we're both excited, both ready to get there, let's move on to the next game, because we still have to do this recap before we get to the previews.
I'm just excited for the playoffs, Connor. Okay, Windsor Lancers over the Waterloo Warriors. This is a big statement for them. Windsor punched their ticket to the postseason, a 4-4 record when many people thought they were not going to be anywhere close to as good as they were or have been. But Connor, familiar faces, familiar places. And that is Joey Zorn and the damn end zones at Alumni Stadium in Windsor.
Yeah, and he did this not just on the ground, but through the air in the win over Waterloo. Zorn had 9 attempts on the ground, 76 yards and a touchdown, 2 receptions, 54 yards and a touchdown. What can't Zorn do?
I want to talk, though, Connor, Nolan Caban. The interceptions once again. He had 3 interceptions in the first half, Connor. This is a trend that we've seen throughout the year. And finally, the Windsor Lancers picked him off before the half. Waterloo said, tapping out, we're done. They put in Matt Lynn. He also threw a pick, so it didn't end up being much better, but he was able to score their lone touchdown. Connor, this was the issue with Waterloo all year. They could put up yards, they could put up points, but they kept shooting themselves in the foot. And this time it was over before they even had a chance to really go.
It really was a 31-point first half from the Windsor Lancers off 3 first half turnovers. Makes it really hard to come out and not just play the second half of the game, but play the second half of the game with any kind of confidence.
Meanwhile, Windsor found a passing attack again. Danny Skelton, 16 of 29, 240 in the touchdown to Joey Zorn, as we mentioned before. This Windsor team's kind of finding their form, Connor, through the air right now, and it's kind of adding this different dimension where they have to go and play against the Ottawa GGs.
Yeah.
And Ottawa's going to be pissed off, but Windsor's confident in themselves right now. They've done the road trip to Ottawa already this year when they had to play Carleton. They've faced the GGs before. It was a closer game.
Yeah.
And I feel like both teams are at completely different places from where they were early in the year. Yep. But this Windsor team has found their confidence. Nick Reyes has stepped up as a veteran presence in the receiving corps, 565 this week. Callum Bethune has been contributing for them through the air all year as well. So I think this Windsor team is going to give some people fits, but a 4-4 record for Coach JP Ciselli, 39-11 win over Waterloo on senior day, and they're going to the postseason. The Windsor Lancers and the next game we're talking about, the Toronto Varsity Blues, my Toronto Varsity Blues, are going to the playoffs.
Welcome to 2022, everybody. The Windsor Lancers and the Toronto Varsity Blues have made the OUA postseason.
Now, this is the second year in a row Toronto's made the playoffs. I got a text from one of my good friends. Guys, it was to our group chat. Guys, G-Marsh might get tenured. 2 straight playoff appearances for the Varsity Blues after not making it since 1997. I know we were kind of excited about it last year, but we had to be real. They made it after beating York twice in the regular season. This year, a 4-4 record. First time since 2014 that the Varsity Blues have hit 500 in a full-length season. They did it on the road against McMaster. Connor, Mac's a tough place to go and play.
Oh, man, is it ever. It's one of my favorite stadiums in the OUA. Definitely one of the hardest places to play. They always have a very passionate crowd there. Hamilton, football and Hamilton just go hand in hand, really. Passionate fans on the pro level, passionate fans at the U Sports level, passionate fans at the high school level. Come on now. But yeah, I mean, Toronto goes into a very tough place to play on the road in McMaster. They grind out a win, and I will say they did so on the ground, and they leaned into, we said they were going to have to lean into Adam Williams.
Which they did.
They did. He had 16 carries. He didn't have the yardage, but he had 16 carries. And then their quarterback, Kinsale Phillip, followed it up with 8 carries of his own for 75 yards and 1 very angry run.
Oh, man, we got to get this submitted to
somebody call Kyle
NFL Network for tomorrow morning. No, with Kinsale Phillip, though, Connor, this was like, okay, I'm not going to force the ball downfield. I'm just going to use my legs, be the athlete that I am. And he was fighting for yards. Now, in the air, 14 of 29, so just under 50%, 189 yards. But Mac has had a decent secondary this season. They've been feisty. But through the air, Connor, LeGood, Osho, Lehman, Oseen, all of them with 3 receptions. Yeah. Each one of them had a catch of around 20 yards. Lehman was the only one that didn't get 20 yards. He had a 17-yard catch. Diodati, a 19-yard catch. they were attacking at the intermediate second and third levels of this defense, just kind of saying like, you know what? And half these, Connor, were just quick screens, and then they'd get in your face, block you down. They're getting athletes in space like LeGood and Osho and Adam Williams, and just saying, we have the dudes.
Yeah.
Get in space, do your jam.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And the other guy that I really want to give some credit for the win in this game is Toronto's kicker, Samuel Henke, who had 9 crucial points in the first half of this game. It was a 10-9 Mac lead going into halftime. Toronto comes out, puts up 4 more points in this game, wins it 13-10. And so I think without his leg, they're not in this game.
Absolutely not. But like we talked about in the preview, Connor, there was going to be an interception somewhere down the line for the Varsity Blues. That just so happened to be right before the end of the game as McMaster is making a push. 2 minutes on the clock, interception. I took very big pride in making that prediction earlier this week. But Ryan Collins picked off midfield, sealed the game. They were able to close out the last 2 minutes, take your victory kneels, and move on. For the Varsity Blues, though, Connor, this books them a trip to Kingston to play the Queen's Gales. Let's talk about Macville, because this is kind of the same formula that we saw all year, and a team that had to forfeit a couple games early in the year from an eligibility standpoint. It happens to every team at some point, but this is the same formula we saw from them all year long.
Yeah, certainly has been. Andreas Dueck, 21 of 30, 215, had a touchdown, but had those 2 big interceptions. And I think really this has just been a year of Andreas Dueck not trying to do too much, but having to do too much for the Mac offense, if you know what I mean. Like, he really has had to be the guy to make plays for Mac. I haven't really seen, other than, early on in the season when Jacob Patton was making huge plays in the return game, I haven't really seen a player step up and be the guy at Mac, other than Dueck, obviously, who touches the ball on every single play because he's the quarterback.
But Connor, it's also the lack of a run game for McMaster.
Yeah.
15 attempts, 67 yards. And I know Toronto played very well in this game, and they were really keying on the Mac run game to kind of force Dueck into these situations. But this is a team that has been gashed throughout the year on the run, right? Like with Western and Queens, these teams that target Toronto's rush defense. Mac couldn't get more than just 4 and change yards per carry. Honestly, I think that was the biggest crux with the McMaster team this year. No run game, leaving Dueck to have this 30-plus attempt games, and he turned the ball over in those games. So they're really struggling to kill the clock and keep a hold on the ball when they had it.
But yeah, I mean, when we think about McMaster in the past, and specifically their run game, I mean, they've always kind of had a 2-headed monster in the backfield. They've always had a guy that will ground and pound and get you those hard yards. And then they've always had a secondary back that has been, kind of that pass catcher out of the backfield, work in space and find the yards that way. And we just didn't see that from Mac this year at all.
When you think McMaster, first person that comes to mind, maybe Marshall Ferguson.
Jesse Lumsden.
It's Jesse Lumsden, right? Like, athletic, hard-nosed running back, grinding out the clock. But that concludes our OUA recap from this week. We are headed to the playoffs. Connor is busy on the Saturday, but I am going to be in Kingston watching my Varsity Blues. I might be wearing blue instead of CFP gear, but there's blue in both teams' color schemes, so it's still non-biased. But no, we'll be watching my Varsity Blues go against the Queen's Gales live from Richardson. It's actually homecoming, so the school pushed homecoming this year to try and make it when there's more midterms. And then Queen said, hey, we're going to host a playoff game on homecoming, so it doesn't even work out.
Love that.
If you want to check out these games upcoming for the playoffs, get your tickets now. There's not going to be a ton left. But if you want to check out the games we just mentioned, head to OUA.tv. You can get every game on demand. At Wade Zank, at Connor R. O'Neill, at CF Perspective. It's the postseason. We are ready for it. Stay tuned for more.
What's on the menu?